Hello, good morning. We're going to give people just about 5 more minutes to get in here, so we'll start a little bit after 10 o'clock. While you are waiting, you can take a look on the table. There are a few documents. One is the fundamental principles of the Poor People's Campaign, and another is a quick fact sheet about Arkansas. So familiarize yourself with those while we wait, and we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning to talk about the Poor People's Campaign and the Arkansas Poor People's Campaign. We will spend some time this morning learning about the Poor People's Campaign, what it is, and what the platform is. We're going to hear some words from a few people who are a part of the campaign here in Arkansas. And then we're going to learn a little bit about the landscape of poverty in Arkansas and what poverty looks like here in our home state. So the Poor People's Campaign was started by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And this week we're celebrating or remembering the life of Martin Luther King Jr. and mourning his assassination. Martin Luther King Jr. was moving towards a human rights platform which looked at the intersection of different forms of poverty and different forms of oppression and how they work together to maintain poverty in our country. He was looking at how systemic racism, poverty, the war economy, and ecological devastation come together to keep people in social structures which are harmful to them. And so he began the Poor People's Campaign, which was a moral revival, which was to save the heart and soul of our democracy. We are here today in 2018, 50 years out from the death of Martin Luther King Jr. and the end of the Poor People's Campaign. And the Reverend Dr. Barber of North Carolina has started a revival. He has revived the Poor People's Campaign in the United States. And today, 40 states have signed on to be part of this Poor People's Campaign. And within those 40 states, there are groups of people who are organizing around these 5 pillars: poverty, systemic racism, ecological devastation, the war economy, and a distorted moral narrative. The Poor People's Campaign believes that poverty is not the fault of the poor, and that there is enough for all of us to live and thrive. And so, with the guidance of Reverend Dr. Barber and the Poor People's Campaign across the United States, we are launching a multi-year, long-term campaign to bring people together across the lines that divide us and unite us from the bottom up. Beginning on Mother's Day, we'll have 40 days of action, and I'll say a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation. But at this time, I want to say a little bit about the Episcopal Church, since we are here at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. In January, the Episcopal Church officially signed on to support the Poor People's Campaign, which is awesome. It's a landmark moment for the Episcopal Church. The Executive Council met and resolved that the Poor People's Campaign was in line with the values of the Episcopal Church, and that the Episcopal Church ought to support the Poor People's Campaign by showing up and doing direct action to support this platform. And so this has not happened before within the Episcopal Church. The Episcopal Church did not do a good job during the civil rights movement of showing up for civil rights. Individuals did, but the church as an institution did not. And so I want to say that we are called, those of us who are in the room who are Episcopalian, are called to be part of this Poor People's Campaign because of our faith. So just a little bit about the souls of poor folk. Reverend Dr. Barber did a study called The Souls of Poor Folk, which was looking at what poverty looks like across the United States. And just a few of the highlights, if you can call them that, from the study are, since 2010, 23 states have passed racist voter suppression laws. As of 2016, there are 40.6 million people living below the federal poverty line. The 400 wealthiest Americans now own more wealth than the bottom 64% of the U.S. population. The cost of basic needs like housing, healthcare, and education has gone up, and wages for most people have remained stagnant, turning America into a debtor's nation. At the height of the Vietnam War, military spending was $354 billion. Today, it is nearly twice that at $635 billion. 53 cents out of every discretionary dollar of our taxes goes directly towards the military. And there are 13.8 million low-income households that cannot afford water in the U.S. And so these are just a few of the things that were found in this study, but I think that they illustrate the landscape of poverty in the United States and the fact that poverty is not just about having money or not having money, but it's an intersection of identity markers and systems of oppression that cause people to remain in a lifestyle which is not healthy or sustainable, or what we believe is good and right. And so at this time I want to invite a few people who are supportive, are members, are impacted people of the Poor People's Campaign to come up and say a few words about why they have signed on. So the first person I want to invite up is Michael Martin.
Thank you. How you doing, everyone? Thank you for having me. And I want to thank Samantha. She's been very an incredible piece of our campaign, very supportive. Also thankful to the Episcopal Church and for holding this event. I guess to begin with my story, I was in the military from 1994 to 1998. No real sad story as far as going to war and PTSD and things like that, but I was in the military from 94 to 98. I did start having severe mental anxiety disorders and like panic attacks every day, and I ended up on Xanax. They wouldn't let me have any kind of mental health like treatment because they said that could end my military career. Well, anyways, make a long story short, I ended up on Xanax for 15 years, drinking a lot, pretty much a downhill spiral. And then, you know, if anybody knows anything about alcoholism and addiction, you lose everything. So that's pretty much what happened to me. And but at the same time, I've always been, somehow I made it through school, you know, and I ended up getting a master's degree. And I've always been very much into politics. And I guess Solomon saw my Facebook posts, so and he was a good friend of mine actually. He was he lived next door to me. He's one of the tri-chairs of the campaign here in Fayetteville, and so he knew that I was an affected person and that I had some knowledge of what's going on in the country. So he asked me to be on the campaign, and so anyways, I went to Tennessee last week or a couple of weeks ago and met Dr. Barber and got to learn a little bit more about the campaign. And I got really excited because Dr. Barber is and his crew of people are very very outgoing. They really get people excited about the campaign. And I came back with a desire to tell people about what's going on. 52 cents of every dollar is spent on the military in this country. I walk around here and I see homeless people walking on the street, and I'm thinking, why are people just walking around homeless? I don't get that. Now I look on the news today and I see that we're having a military parade. Why are we having a military parade that's costing $30 million? Why is the head of the EPA, why does he have 29 security agents and 29 vehicles spending $100,000 going on trips, and we're cutting health care, we're cutting education, we're cutting standards for air quality. So these kinds of things have always really, I just don't understand well, I understand what's going on, and it's a power grab, and it's an idea that the elite are just going to take everything from the poor. And somehow we have got to come together and say, enough is enough. I mean, and a lot of times in this society, I think we get comfortable, and especially if we're middle class, you know, would think, oh, it's okay. But at some point, it's going to start affecting everybody. And now we got tariffs that are coming, and this is going to start affecting everybody. So I just encourage everybody to try to empathize with people that are, when you see people walking around on the street that are homeless, and not say that, and not look at them and blame them, because nobody is walking around on the street homeless because they're just being lazy, or that somehow it's just their fault. I don't think that's the easy way out. I think that's probably the hardest way out. So I would encourage you to get on our website, the Arkansas Poor People's Campaign. Look at the videos and watch some of Dr. Barber's videos, and see what the campaign is about. We have pledge cards over here. So if anybody is interested in pledging, we encourage you to do that. We're going to have a, nonviolent, yeah, I can never say that. This coming up on the 14th, and we encourage you to come to that, because you're not committing to nonviolent action, but it's just a training that if you wanted to, you can. If you don't, it's no big deal. But anyways, that's all I got. I hope I didn't take up too much time.
So, thank you, Michael. Next, I want to invite Janet to come forward to say a few words, and I'm sure she'll tell us a little bit more about the nonviolent moral fusion training that's happening next Saturday at Good Shepherd from 12 to 4. And this is a training on the principles of nonviolence, which the Poor People's Campaign is a platform of nonviolence. And so we encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about nonviolence or who is looking to participate in the campaign in direct action to be a part of that training.
Yes, everybody's invited. Saturday, 12 to 4 at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. Even if you just want to drop by and spend an hour with us and come learn more about the campaign. Anyway, my name's Janet. I am a member here at St. Paul's. Just recently moved back to Arkansas, but was a member here previously and did a lot of good work with us, because we're a good community church. Anyway, can everybody join me? And I'm going to read a quote from the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., kind of as a prayer, if we can do this prayerfully. He has so many quotes, but I love this one. It's on my Facebook page. I choose to identify with the underprivileged. I choose to identify with the poor. I choose to give my life for the hungry. I choose to give my life for those who have been left out of the sunlight of opportunity. I choose to live for and with those who find themselves seeing life as a long and desolate corridor with no exit sign. This is the way I am going. If it means suffering a little bit, I'm going that way. If it means sacrificing, I'm going that way. If it means dying for them, I'm going that way. Because I heard a voice saying, do something for me. Do something for others. And as most Christians know, we're people of the book and people of the word, so I have some more words. We had an Easter vigil last weekend. It was beautiful. Best part is the babies, of course. But we also say this as Episcopalians. Will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? Will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? And we respond, I will, with God's help. So the Poor People's Campaign is a call to all of us. It's not just a call to those of us that are active and have worked with the underprivileged and with people with disabilities. I mean, I left corporate 15 years ago, and I've worked, the job I went to was at the Children's Emergency Shelter in Fort Smith. So I've worked with people. I've seen the safety net gradually erode over the last 15 years. Like Mike said, it's a power grab, and, you know, people are being, instead of lifted up to a dignity that many of us just believe is inherent as humans, they're being kind of crushed. And all of us, that affects all of us. I mean, it affects all of us, whether we're in our Fayetteville bubble, whether we're in our, you know, our church pews, whether we're out, whether we're here with the community meals people. So I just encourage you, the Facebook page is wonderful. If anybody's on Facebook, just get on, look at some of those statistics, sit with them for a little bit. And this affects all of us, it really does. So please join. Thanks.
And then, thank you, Janet. And then I wanted to invite Jenn Cole to come forward and say a few words. Jenn is a member of St. Paul's as well. And while she's making her way forward, I wanted to say the Poor People's Campaign is a nonpartisan campaign. And so it's important for us to recognize that we have a platform that's guided by moral principles. We do not associate with people who are elected officials. They don't sign on to, like, we don't endorse them. We are not a partisan group. So I just wanted to say that, and here is Jenn.
Okay, I'm not good at public speaking, so thank you for tolerating me. My mom, since I was 13, has worked 3 jobs since she was divorced. She was a lot of times in need of health care and relied on the church, and I've been flung into that situation myself. I now live in public housing with 120 residents that we feel we're lucky to have our public housing. And that's a strange word, we're lucky to have public housing. At any moment, that could be taken from us. At any moment, we could lose our health care. When I look around every day, and I try to volunteer in the kitchen, or I try to come here to St. Paul's to community meals, you see a lot of people who are afflicted by the lack of health care, the lack of mental health care, the veterans who are homeless, the children in the community that are facing homelessness. It's around us everywhere. All you have to do is open your eyes and your hearts to see it. Yet we are in 120 countries fighting wars that most of us can't name those countries. Our teachers don't have time to teach it. Our schools are taxed. We don't have enough funding for schools. We're thinking about putting guns in the hands of our teachers. They don't want guns. There's a lot to just open our eyes and hearts and pray about, but prayer isn't enough. We need to step up and have action at this time. So I'm very thankful that the Poor People's Campaign is coming back, and we have this opportunity to have action. It's time to not just rely on church anymore and stand up and become a part of our communities. Today there's actually a walk a mile in our shoes at 2 o'clock from the homeless shelter on School Street, and it'll end at the town center. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people speaking that can speak a little bit better than me about what's going on, not just in our community, but around the United States and in many countries. But we are spending a lot of money in the United States, as you well put. Too much on a dollar is going to wars. Our funding is not going to the right places. People are going without health care, without mental health care. Our doctors would probably like to take better care of us than they can, instead of seeing us suffer needlessly. So maybe check the web pages that could give you better information than me. And join in this campaign. Try to do what you can.
So next we're going to go through and look at the landscape of poverty in the United States, or in Arkansas. And I will say I have cited sources up here. If you have questions about where we found these facts, you're welcome to come up at the end and take a look at the guide. But I'm going to kind of go through these quickly and just read for you some facts about what poverty looks like in Arkansas. After that, I'll invite you to turn to the people at your table and have a brief conversation about what came up for you in hearing more about what poverty looks like in Arkansas, or maybe what came up for you when you listened to Mike and Janet and Jenn share, or what questions do you have? And then we'll come together at the very end for some question and answer and a little bit more about what it looks like to participate in the campaign. 1.2 million One in 4 children in Arkansas live in poverty. 1 in 4 disabled Arkansans live in poverty. 1 in 10 elderly Arkansans live in poverty. 1 in 10 homeless Arkansans are veterans. A living wage in Arkansas is $14.26 an hour. Our minimum wage is $8.50. And this is for Arkansas has no state-implemented water plan. People of color in Arkansas are 2 times as likely to live in poverty. People of color in Arkansas are 4 times as likely to be incarcerated. People of color in Arkansas are 3 times as likely to be disenfranchised. People of color in Arkansas have lower education attainment rates. And people of color in Arkansas have worse health outcomes. And so these are just a few facts about Arkansas. I'm sure we could go on thinking about like what are the details within each of those. But I'm going to invite you now to turn to your table and share with each other what came up for you in hearing those facts. And then I'll call you back together in about 5 minutes.